Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Welcome if you're new here. My name is Leila, and today I'm going to share with you books that I want to read in 2025. If you haven't watched my video tier ranking all 35 books I read last year, I'm going to leave the link right here or here. I always forget which side. But today let's talk about books that I currently own, my physical TBR for this year. Most of the books I promised to read last year, but because I started my master's, honestly, I have no time to read. So my goal for this year is 40 books because realistically, I think I can read 5 more books than last year. But at the same time, I know that last year I could have read more have I not started my master's. And because this year I'm still going to be doing my master's, I'm still going to be writing my thesis. I'm not sure if I'm going to reach that goal, but still, I want to try. And I want to share with you books that I'm looking forward to reading this year. Okay, so I have with me how many books? I have 7 here. And how many books is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 here. So I have 14 books with me that I have already in my possession and that are just waiting to be read by me. Okay, so first one is Franz Fanon, The Wretched of the Earth. I am so sorry. I don't know how to pronounce his last name because it's French and I always have a hard time with French. So this book is always regarded as like one of the most influential books, especially as I read Orientalism last year. I like see this book being mentioned as much as Orientalism. So if you don't know Fanon, maybe I should look up how to say his name before I fucking do this. Okay, so Frantz Fanon. So I was right. That's the French pronunciation. So he wrote this text in French. This is translated from French by Constance Farrington, with a preface by Jean-Paul Sartre. I have a hard time pronouncing French last names and names, so bear with me. I actually bought this book and it just arrived today, and I bought it for my essay that I'm currently working on the Chechen War. So I want to like use him as one of my academic sources. And if you don't know about this book, let me tell you. Written at the height of the Algerian War for Independence, Frantz Fanon's classic text has provided inspiration for anti-colonial movements ever since. With power and anger, Fanon makes clear the economic and psychological degradation inflicted by imperialism. It was Fanon himself, a psychotherapist, who exposed the connection between colonial war and mental disease, who showed how the fight for freedom must be combined with building a national culture, and he showed the way ahead through revolutionary violence to socialism. Many of the great calls to arms from the era of decolonization are now purely of historical interest, yet this passionate polemic is just as illuminating about the world we live in today. So I already know that I will love it. I'm looking forward to start reading it. Next book I ordered also for my studies, and this one is actually for my thesis, and that is Manufacturing Consent by Edward Herman and Noam Chomsky. My thesis is, as you know, I'm doing my master's in communication studies. So my thesis is about the way American media talks about Israel-Palestine war starting October 7th, 2023. So this one I'm gonna use as my literary source. Really looking forward to reading it. You probably know it already because it's always being talked about. Um, a powerful assessment of how the US mass media fail to provide the kind of information that we need to understand the world. Must I say more? Next book is also one of the latest editions, and it is also for my thesis. This one is Noam Chomsky and Ilan Pappé, Gaza in Crisis, Reflections on Israel's War Against the Palestinians. I have read On Palestine last year. So this one is actually original, and On Palestine is like second book by Noam Chomsky and Ilan Pape. So I'm looking forward to reading this one. In Gaza in Crisis, Noam Chomsky and Ilan Pape survey the fallout from that devastation and place the massacre in Gaza in the context of Israel's long-standing war against the Palestinians. It is a rigorous, historically informed, and much-needed analysis of the situation and will be welcomed by all those eager for Chomsky's and Pape's insights into yet another political catastrophe. And also, this book was written in 2005. So, like, we're now 2025, like 20 years later. It's still going on. It's really devastating. Honestly, sometimes I feel like there's nothing that we can do, but I think what we can do is educate ourselves and learn more and know how to talk about it and how to debate those who support the genocide and have all sorts of excuses for it. I think that's the only way forward, is to actually talk about it and know about it more. So I am looking forward to reading it. Next one is another Palestinian book, The 100 Years War in Palestine. I started last year, but I was too busy with studying. But this one is also for my thesis, so I definitely will read it next year. I mean, this year, 2025. Um, so this one was written by Rashid Khalidi, and he is himself Palestinian. Drawing on his family's experiences and archives and those of other Palestinians, Rashid Khalidi reclaims the fundamental right of any people to narrate their history on their own terms. Okay, and this I think is my last book on Palestine, and this one is also Ilan Pape, The Ethnic Cleansing of Palestine. If you don't know, Ilan Pape is actually Israeli historian who's very pro-Palestinian. Um, and basically, this book talks about the 1948 Israeli War of Independence, which forced migrations of Palestinians. In this groundbreaking book, renowned Israeli historian Ilan Pape offers impressive archival evidence to demonstrate that from its very inception, a central plank in Israel's founding ideology was the forcible removal of the indigenous population, a strategy that continues to the present day. Dr. Pape's vivid and timely account sheds new light on the origins and development of the Palestine-Israel conflict and is indispensable for anyone interested in the Middle East. I haven't started reading it yet, but I know it's going to be a very difficult one. But I also think it would be really important to learn about it. And inside there's photos um, documenting um, the Nakba when Palestinians were forced to flee. It's really, really heartbreaking. By the way, I recently watched the documentary that won the Berlinale Festival, um, No Other Land, and I recommend it as well. If you are not big on reading, maybe you can start with that documentary and see what Palestinians have to live through for the past almost a century. I wanted to say let's move to something less heartbreaking, but honestly, next book is Hisham Matar and his The Return. So this one is great. It doesn't say, but this one is a memoir of Hisham Matar, whose father was killed by Gaddafi. Um, I bought this book back in September, and now I actually forgot the plot. Kind of, I mean, the plot, it's a memoir, but basically, he returns to Tripoli after so many years, after Gaddafi's regime fell. Um, and this book is basically about that. So, the return to um, his land. And the book says fathers, sons, and the land in between. So, this one also I'm looking forward to reading, and I really want to have more free time to finally indulge in it and learn more about Libya because I actually don't know much about it. So, this would be my first introduction, I guess. Next book I showed you in my What I Want to Read This Fall video back in September, and that is Babel by Arf Kwang. I still haven't read it, it's so huge. I definitely will read it after I'm done with my master's because there's no way I have time for this right now, but like I really want to read it. But I really hope that by next fall I'll be free and I'm gonna have time to read Dark Academia in the fall because I didn't get to read it this fall. I mean, the past fall I hope I'm gonna read it this fall. Next is Pachinko, that has been on my list forever, and I finally purchased it. It's also a thick one, but that's something I want to do more of in 2025. Read bigger books, because like a lot of times you are trying to read more and like you choose shorter books because you know that's going to get you to that goal of reaching a certain amount of books. But honestly, is that the point of reading? No, like you need to read big books, and I want to do that this year. So if you don't know, Pachinko, written by Min Jin Lee, is about Korean history during the occupation of Korea by Japan and the atrocities. There's actually a series, Pachinko. I started watching it, but then I stopped because I really want to read the book first, because I think like whatever the series will show, it's not going to be as good as the book, as always. So I was like, no, let's not spoil it. I want to read it and then watch the series itself. So teenage Sunja, the adored daughter of a crippled fisherman, falls for a wealthy yakuza. He promises her the world, but when she discovers she's pregnant and that her lover is married, she refuses to be bought. Facing ruin, she accepts an offer of marriage from a gentle minister passing through on his way to Japan. Following a man she barely knows to a hostile country where she has no friends, Sunja will be forced to make some difficult choices. Her decisions will echo through the decades. Beautiful, and I want to read more of historical fiction for my own uh, reasons. I want to like see how to do it. So I need to read more historical fiction to even know how to do it. So yeah, it's not just that I'm interested in the story, it's also that I want to learn how to tell a story through this genre, basically. Next book I also showed you in my fall video, fall TBR video, and that is The Memory Police by Yoko Ogawa, where people basically forget words. I need to read it. Like, and it's not that long, it's not that big, it's like 200 pages. I can do it. I need to do it. I just need more time to do it. Like, I miss reading so much. I miss reading for pleasure so much. Ah, can't wait to be free and like be able to read again. Okay, next four books. Actually, I showed them to you in my fall TBR. So for those who didn't watch that, I'm gonna show it again. But if you watched it, you'll be bored. But I just remembered I also have two books in the bedroom that I need to show you. So wait for it. This one is Cultish, The Language of Fanaticism. Fanaticism by Amanda Montell. This was a gift from one of my friends in Prague when I was leaving Prague. I also am looking forward to reading it because it's something not related to my thesis and uni, and like still nonfiction, and it's educational. It's really fun to learn about cults, or how what language they use. From my understanding of this book, what language they use to turn people into followers, right? So this one, really interesting. Next one, How Not to Die. Basically a book written by a doctor on different ways how to be healthy. And I think I'm at that stage in my life where I really want to know how to be healthy. I'm turning 30 in March, gotta be healthy and alive. So this one also on my list, but I think it's gonna take a long time for me to read this one, and I'm okay with it. Next book is Stephen King on Writing, a memoir of the craft. As I said, I wanna write my own book, and that's why I bought this book, to learn how to write a book. So coming out clean here. Also need to read it once I'm done with studying, so definitely you won't be seeing it on my Instagram anytime soon, because I need some time to stop writing my thesis and to start writing my fiction, okay? Next one is Truman Capote in Cold Blood. This has been on my TBR for the past, I think, 3 years or something. And I thought I'm gonna read it this fall. And then my uni started and I realized, hell no, I don't have any free time. And the only time I have to read for my thesis or assignments. So this one will have to wait till fall. I feel like a lot of these books will have to wait till fall, but those that I showed you first, I think I'm gonna go through them like right now because I need them for my thesis and studying. And now two more additional books that I forgot about, and I'm gonna bring them. Okay, and now last two books that I want to show you. I already started them. First one is The Idiot by Elif Batuman. She is Turkish American writer who I don't know if she still works, but she definitely worked for the New Yorker. And basically, this story is perfect for what I'm going through right now. I'm gonna read the back of it, but first, I got this book from my Secret Santa I did with my classmates. So I was so happy that I got one of the books that I wanted. So I'm just so happy when I get presents that really hit the spot, you know? So Celine, that's the name of the main character, turns up at Harvard and finds herself dangerously overwhelmed by the challenges and possibilities of adulthood. How does she find friends? How will she fall in love? How does she deal with how difficult it is to be a failed writer and how baffling love is? So I already started reading it, and I love the fact that she starts reading Russian, you know, and it makes her so relatable because I speak Russian, and that she's like trying to find her way. And even though I'm doing masters and I'm almost 30, like I relate to this character going through this transition, you know, um, as a young 20, I think, something year old woman. It's still relatable to me because I'm currently back at school, and reading about people studying and being students is so relatable. That's why I think I'm going to finish this book pretty soon. Hopefully I'll have enough time, but I'm enjoying it so much, and I already know it's going to be one of the favorites of this year. Well, we'll see, because sometimes it can be quite disappointing towards the end, but so far really enjoying it. And the next one I also started last year, but didn't have time to finish, but I am halfway through. I definitely would have finished it if I didn't have my master's, okay? And that is Richard Osman's The Man Who Died Twice. So I read his first book in the Thursday Murder Club series last year, but I'm gonna finish this one this year, so it's okay. Yeah, if you don't know, basically this is a story about four people in the retirement house and how they are basically solving murders. I really enjoyed first one more. I feel like I'm kind of getting bored with the second one. We'll see how it goes, but it might be also because I'm just so overwhelmed with life that I want to read something relatable. And for old people currently solving murders currently doesn't really hit the spot, okay? But I think these two I'm gonna be done pretty quickly with. So yeah, and that sums up my video. What I want to read this year. There are definitely gonna be more books that I'm gonna read. Maybe some of them I'm not gonna read this year, like it usually happens. Maybe my TBR will get bigger and bigger. You see that shelf actually empty because I took out all the books. They're all here. There is no space for them there. But yeah, I am looking forward to reading more this year. But I also want to be realistic that this year my priority is to finish my thesis, get my master's degree. So we'll see how that will go regarding my books I want to read this year. So no pressure, but also excited to read more. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope this video was interesting for you. Maybe you found some new books you want to read this year as well. Let me know in the comments, and I will see you in my next video. I love you. Bye.